Hey, welcome to the Grill According to Gord. Today we're doing a smoked brisket. If you're going to do this, you're going to want to leave yourself some time. It is going to smoke for 10 hours on the smoker. So you want to be getting up early in the morning and you'll be cooking well into the afternoon. What we're doing right now is we're putting the rub onto our brisket. So my rub here is a Creole style. So it has lots of paprika, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, that sort of thing. I'm just going to take some and sprinkle it over top. And we're just going to make sure that we rub it in everywhere. Get it all in there. And we're going to rub all sides. So there isn't going to be any part of the brisket that doesn't have the rub on it. What you're going to want to do when you're getting your barbecue ready is you want to set it up for about 225, between 225 and 250 degrees. And that is going to lightly cook your meat and break down all of the connective tissue. And you'll end up with a really moist and tasty brisket. Okay, so our brisket's ready to go on now. We have our barbecue at about 225 degrees and it's smoking nicely. So we just need to, and our brisket's had the rub on it for about an hour to try and dig its way into the meat. So we're just going to open the lids, place our brisket on, close it up. And now we really don't need to touch it for several hours, but we're probably going to come back every hour just to check the temperature, make sure that we have our vents open, keep it between that 225, 250 throughout the day. And our next stage, where we're going to show you what comes next, is in about 6 hours. Okay, so it's been 4 hours now, and we're just going to have a look and see how our brisket is doing. Our temperatures remain nice and steady between 225 and 250 throughout those 4 hours. So we're just going to lift the lid and have a look and make sure everything's all right. So you can see the smoke is penetrating into the meat. It's creating a nice kind of bark around it as it absorbs the smoke. All right, so everything's looking good. So again, we just keep monitoring the temperature. And in 4 hours, we're going to actually pull it off and wrap it in foil. And we'll see it when we do it. Okay, so our brisket's now been on for about 7.5 hours. It's still maintained that 225 to 250 degree temperature. What we're going to do now is we're going to take it off and wrap it in foil. And what that's going to do, because it's absorbed as much smoke as it's really going to absorb, this is going to let it steam in its own juices, and this is when the brisket itself gets really, really tender. Right? So we're now going to open the lid. You can see that it's created that bark, that crust from all the smoke that it's absorbed. And we're just going to lift underneath here. Bring it over here in the foil. We're going to wrap it up nice and tight this way. And then we're going to wrap it once this way. And then we're just going to put right back on the grill. Again, still at 225, 250. And we're going to have it do that for another 2 hours. Okay, so we've now had 9.5 hours of cook time. You may remember that we did wrap it in foil, but now it's time to open it up. This is what it now looks like. We're just going to take it and put it in this pan. We're now just going to let it rest for 30 minutes. We don't want to touch it because that's going to let all the juices kind of reabsorb up into the meat before we cut into it. So we just don't want to touch it for the next 30 minutes. Okay, so it's now been 10 hours. The last half an hour, the beef has rested, and it's now ready for us to slice into it. So all those juices have reabsorbed into the meat. You can still tell some of it's running a little bit out of it. So we're going to take the knife and just cut it on the bias against the grain. You can start to see how thick that smoke ring is through the meat. It's nice and juicy and firm. And that's the grill according to Gord.